Hello, this is Anna Zobel, and I'm actually going to share something about the Abrahamic Covenant. And in a later video, I'm going to explain how this applies to us today, and how it applies to the scattering and then gathering of Israel. So, Abraham was one of the prophets of the Old Testament, and God made a covenant with him. A covenant is a two-way promise. Abraham promised to obey God, and God promised Abraham four different things, and it's throughout the scriptures. So the first thing that he promised him was land, which at that time was the land of Canaan, or present-day Israel. Number two was that he promised him posterity in Abraham 3:14 and Genesis 12:2 and Genesis 17:5. God promises Abraham that he will make him a great nation and he will have seed like the sands of the sea. And then the third thing that he promised him was the priesthood. And he promises him ministry of priesthood unto all nations in Abraham 2:9, and it's also mentioned in D&C 84:14. And the last thing is kind of an overall thing, and it says that all nations will be blessed through his seed, which is in Genesis 12:3. And I forgot to say for the land, those scriptures are Abraham 2:6 and Genesis 12:5 through 7. And he's promised that land for an everlasting possession. So I remember learning in my Pearl of Great Price class at Rick's College, back before it was BYU Idaho, from Brother Satterfield was my teacher, that he had talked about there's temporal blessings and then there's the spiritual equivalent. And so for each of those spiritual equivalents, land, we compared to the celestial kingdom. You know, the promised land that we are all trying to get to is the celestial kingdom in heaven. Posterity, the spiritual equivalent, is that as we become like God and we are in the celestial kingdom, then we are also promised eternal spiritual posterity, spiritual offspring. And then the priesthood, this is a temporal blessing, but it's also spiritual, because the priesthood is how God is able to give us the ordinances and covenants to help us get to the celestial kingdom. So I'm going to make a second video in this series to show how the Abrahamic Covenant helps to bless all nations. But just to give you a little glimpse of it, is that because Abraham's seed was spread throughout the earth, and because Abraham kept his part of this covenant, that he did obey God, even to the point of almost offering Isaac as a sacrifice to God, that then God is still keeping his part of this covenant. So this is a very important covenant in our lives even today. So because Abraham, thousands of years ago kept his part of the covenant, then we are blessed with the priesthood in our lives, and we are blessed with the opportunity for those spiritual blessings of the spiritual land and the spiritual posterity. In fact, that is the new and everlasting covenant that God has given us in this day, which is part of the temple sealing for couples, which is the marriage ceremony, that we are promised the blessings of, it says, the blessings of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And that's what these are. So I just wanted to share that with you. So keep that in mind, as this week we've been studying Jacob 5, that talks about the scattering and gathering of Israel. That I believe the covenants are what some of those roots are of the allegory of the olive tree. So I'll talk to you later.